Another piece of shop equipment, something we have needed for a very long time. I'm real excited about this one. Obviously it's big, we gotta take the trailer. Gotta do some lawn maintenance soon. So some of you may already know what this is. Some of you may be wondering, you said some shop equipment. This is a bunch of metal with holes in it. So this is something I've wanted for a very long time. This is a legit fab fixturing table. I've always kind of worked with dinky welding table setups. I started on a metal door, and then I got a sheet of steel, a 4x8 sheet of steel, bolted that to a wood bench when I was at bench shop, and that worked okay, but it was nowhere near flat. It had a big curve in it. You couldn't square anything up on it. It was really just a big open area to have your ground clamp and have a ground to. Wasn't ideal. So when I left there, Ben wanted to learn how to fabricate. He was gonna need a table. So I left the table with him and figured I'd finally take the time to get a legit fixturing table. So that is what we've got. This is from Certiflat Weld Tables. They make all different shapes and sizes. I've been eyeballing tables from them for a very long time, and I finally bit the bullet and bought one. I'm so excited about this. Now, you might be thinking, too little too late. If you visit the shop a lot, you would know we've built this whole car, which has been a big, large ton of fab projects. And why now? We're nearing the end of the tunnel on the fab projects on this thing, and I'm just now getting a table. Well, one, there'll always be more fab projects. They are my favorite projects. Two, I was waiting till the shop here got closed in so we could have a permanent place for the table. My plan was to put it on this wall here with the welder, which, as you can see, we have shelves and stuff there. Well, we've hit a bit of a delay with the shop closing in thing. That is a debacle and a topic for another video, but moral of the story is I got tired of waiting. I've been using this little tiny metal plate here to build everything, and you're building something like an exhaust, it's kind of hard to keep it on the plate, and then if you're building something that falls off the plate, it starts melting the wood. Not an ideal setup in any way, shape, or form. I'm really surprised we got through as much as we did with this, but it's time. Again, I got tired of waiting. I'm like, you know what, we're doing it now. I need a legit weld table. So my plan is to put it here and have it kind of like an island for now, which will actually be nice working on something really big. We can kind of work all the way around the table. So that's what we're doing. We've got a frame with caster wheels so we can roll it around, and basically the concept behind this is it's using a 1/4 inch thick steel plate, but it has all this internal ribbing and structure that when you build it, you square everything up and you end up with a completely flat table. But if you have a completely flat table, you can build things like if you're building a square frame, you can clamp it to the table and it's guaranteed to be flat and square. So it just makes life a lot easier when it comes to building stuff. There's a nice big metal table. So I'm really excited for this. One of those things, been ogling them for a hot minute, and we finally did it. So I need to run to the hardware store to get some more tools to build our new tool. I got the fancy table. I'm gonna make sure I build it right and true and square, and we need a few items just to make sure we do that. All right, well, we got everything we need to build this out properly. We've got a couple of sawhorses so we can build this frame out on top of them. They're rated 2,500 pounds each. Is it 2,500? Yeah. Let's hope that's correct, because we're going to be putting some weight on these Johnnies. So we've got all the pieces laid out here. These are going to go across. These are going to go a long ways. We've got U-bolts to kind of clamp everything together, square everything up. We should have everything we need to build it. These are 2 wings. These are going to basically extend the ends. We're not going to build those right this second. We're going to focus on the main frame first. Those will attach later. So we're basically going to build it upside down. So there's kind of a process to this to get it all square. So we're going to have to take our time. Make sure we do this right. The only thing that's a bummer is the corner did get damaged in shipping. I don't know if they set something on it or what, but they worked that corner. And the whole point of this is everything to square up together. So I'm going to spend a little more time, try to bend this thing back as flat as I can. I'm just like, what did you set on it to bend a 1/4 inch thick steel plate that was like firmly on a pallet? I don't get it. How do they manage that? Like the least fragile thing you could ship damaged. So anyway, I'm going to mess with that, and then we're going to start building out the frame. You'll see kind of how this goes together once we start building it. But again, it's going to turn into a heavy unit. Enough jibber jabbering. Let's get to work. All right, so you can kind of see what I mean by the inner structure making it flat. So we're basically going to use U-bolts to suck this all flat. So basically the top edge of this is flush with the top plate all the way down. And then we're going to tack weld it all together here at our joints. So very satisfying to put together. It goes together like a very nice puzzle. So let's start tossing U-bolts in and getting this tacked together. I gotta decide if I want to TIG weld it or MIG weld it. It'd be way faster to MIG weld it. But I like TIG welding stuff. I don't know, let's get it clamped and then I'll decide which method I want to use. All right, we've got all of the U-bolts in, everything nice and flat. It's time to tack it all together. I think I'm gonna do just at least this part with the MIG welder. You're not gonna see it anyway. All right, enough jibber jabber, let's get to it. This is funny, so I turned my MIG welder on. I grabbed the ground clamp first off, and I'm like, is this the wrong ground clamp? Why is this so small? Because I've gotten spoiled by the old Fronius here with this beefy unit of a ground clamp. But then also, I'm like, why are the fans running? I haven't even used it yet, because this thing, it's on-demand fans, so the fans don't run until you need them. So it's just sitting there on, silent. Spoiled by this thing. Need to get myself a Fronius MIG welder. This is like my multi-process setup, so I can do TIG on this. I have a bottle for each and a Y thing, but I just never end up using it for TIG. It just is a MIG welder. My plasma cutter's on here. All right, I'm still, I said no jibber jabbering, no more jibber jabbering, and we're still jibber jabbering. Start tacking. On the topic of welder stuff, well, 1, I gotta clean this nozzle. 2, I'm glad I got a new, nicer helmet, my Fronius helmet, because now I can use this one for MIG welding only. MIG welding just destroys this lens on the helmet. TIG welding does not. TIG welding, you need to see really well. MIG welding, you don't really need to see that well. So now I've got a MIG only helmet that I can destroy and not worry about it. All right, got this thing all tacked up. Got all the corner pieces tacked here. Boom, that's all tacked. You're generally supposed to flip it over and then you tack and weld these slots. So see how it slots in there? Basically we would fill that with MIG weld or weld those little tabs with the TIG welder. However, this thing is pretty big and heavy. If I had it on anything else but 2 sawhorses that was a little more stable, I'd flip it myself because it's probably like 300 pounds, I would guess. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It's heavy, but I don't want to risk trying to flip it on these things because it might collapse or whatever. So I just leaned in there from the side and tacked all those slots, got that done. So now we need to build the frame around. Ideally, I want to try to build this whole thing out essentially upside down, and then we can flip it onto its legs once. So I don't have to have Raldo or Josue or both come over to help me flip it and then wait a couple hours and flip it again. Hopefully I'll have it just ready to flip it over, and then we can finish weld out all the slots from the top. So that's my game plan. I mean, definitely would be more ideal to flip it, weld them, but we gotta work with what we got here. So let's start getting the sides on. All right, we've got this thing squared up all the way around. I put the U-bolts all on this side to get that part squared to the top, this squared to that. Move the all thread over as I go and tack weld each box. I'm getting a little nervous about these sawhorses, and the reason is I grabbed all this stuff off the trailer, just basically those pieces, just what's on there right now. Put it on my little rolling workbench, and I just went to push, barely pushed on it, and it was like, and just collapsed. Which, I mean, I should have realized that. This thing's not the beefiest unit of all, but it just makes you realize how much weight is here. Flipping it is gonna be interesting, that's for sure. I'm glad I didn't get the 4x8. That's what I originally was gonna get, but then they suggested I get the 3x5 because it's easier to ship, and then get the 2 fab wings, which makes it a 3x7, essentially. So yeah, I don't know how I would have managed to build a 4x8. Anyway, I'm jibber jabbering. Let's get to welding. Coming together nicely though. All right, now I'll just do that across here, across there, and across there. I'm gonna go ahead and take these U-bolts and put them over there. Do the same thing, same exact thing. We'll just start from this side this time. All right, everything is welded. It's time to put the corner plates in for the legs. Oh, that's satisfying. Dude, this is like a welder's, fabricator's puzzle. Everything goes together so nice. So I'm gonna put these in. I'm gonna weld the rib sections together just to tie everything together. I just wanna put these in case it moves any. Make sure they still fit. All right, I'm gonna weld that up and we'll move to these. Start building the legs. Everything underneath, which is the top, is all tacked in the slots. We'll weld them out once we flip it. Ideally, it'd be better to weld them out first and then finish everything else out and then flip it. But again, I don't want to be flipping this thing over multiple times. For my purposes, it's not even a huge deal. I'm just like, got this nice table and everything else I build is going to be based off this. So if I'm going to take my time anywhere, this is a good place to take my time, because if I've got this dialed in 100% flat, then everything else I build from here will be 100% flat. If I build this off because I'm lazy and I'm rushing, everything else is gonna be off. So I'm trying to do it right. Anyway, back to welding. All right, now the main mounting plates are welded in. Now we need to bolt the actual leg plates because the leg kit's gonna be removable. So we'll mount those with the bolts loosely, fit everything up, weld it together. Cruising right along, boys. All right, leg kit on. Now we just gotta weld it. It's one of those projects where you really need a welding jacket. Woo! That was a lot of welding. Got the legs all welded up. Man, that was a lot of welding to do in just one shot. Like very minimal stoppage, but man, MIG welding is so freaking easy. I mean, I was kind of rushing through it, but yeah. Anyway, got that all welded up. Oh, she's a sturdy unit. So now we have these. Let me go to this other one because that one's probably hot still. So these are the plates for the caster wheels. So they just slot on. Everything's laser cut. So just like tab and slots together. That's probably why it's called tab and slot. So anyway, since the wheel has to sit flush on here, I'm gonna TIG weld these. Just do like a nice little TIG weld there, just so I don't have to do a lot of post grinding to clean it up and get it flush. So we'll get those welded, mount the caster wheels. Hopefully reinforcements will have arrived and we can try to flip this thing over some way somehow. It's a beefy unit. And we still got the wings to build. This is just the main table, but we might as well use the fixture table to build the wings because we can square everything up nicely. All right, table is essentially complete besides welding the top. I just put the caster wheels on. These are dual locking, so we can lock them like it locks rotation and the wheel. So reinforcements have arrived. We just have to figure out exactly how we want to do this. So, wish us luck.
But where's it gonna land on the horses? This side, the face in the middle is the plan, right?
Yep.
And then hold this up.
All right. Oh, maybe not. All right, now. All right. So far, so good. All right, just watch it. Okay. All right. Hold on. Lock that. Grab that. See that tab?
Ready? Watch your toes.
Oh!
Dude, that was
That was pretty smooth in the grand scheme of things.
You can hear the horse creaking.
Dude, they said they were rated for, the sawhorses are rated for 2,500. I was like, I don't know if I believe that. All right, well, that whole procedure went a lot smoother than I anticipated. I'm glad we did it that way. I thought of multiple ways to do it. I was like, do we grab it like one side with the engine hoist and set the other side down? And I was like, maybe we could just flip it right onto the legs. Worked out perfect. So all we have left to do on the main table is basically just fully weld in these slots. So we got to try to keep the weld down in the slot. We don't want anything sticking up. You can see welding it from the underside, it kind of missed there. So we'll have to grind some of it down, but we don't want to go too crazy grinding it because the whole point of this is that it's super flat. So if we have like low and high spots, that's not going to be ideal. Obviously not a huge deal, but I'm just, like I said, trying to take my time and make this right. So we got a lot of welding to do. I got to fill in every single one of these slots, which there's a significant amount. So I'm going to get to it. All right, well, that's it. The main table is officially complete. Now, there are some things I want to do to this down the road. I'd like to build a skin for the bottom there as the shelf and maybe another shelf midway up. But while it's in this kind of temporary spot, I don't want to cram too much stuff on it. We also, like I said, we do have the fab wings to build. So these are going to add that foot to each side, make the table a little bigger. But I think for now, with it in this spot, I'm going to leave it how it is unless we need them. 3x5 didn't seem like it would be big enough because my last table is a 4x8, but my last table was also my only workbench and had the bandsaw on it, the vise on it, things like that. So getting this thing built and having it here, like, I think this is going to be plenty big enough for most of the stuff we do. I mean, by contrast, this is what we were using before. So for now, we're going to keep the fab wings off again until we need them. We do have a bunch of other accessories from them, like some fab squares, a vise mount. But again, we're going to hold off on those until we need them or until this thing is kind of in its final resting spot. So for those of you who might be wondering what all these holes are for, these holes are for clamps and all sorts of things. But we got a few just to start because this is definitely going to be one of those things where I won't really know what kind of clamp and what style and what length and what height I really need until I start using it. So I just got a small assortment to get me started. So we have this style. So it's basically got this long rod. So if you were clamping something this high, you'd put it here, lower it down, and we can clamp just about anything in any position. We have the Bessie style clamps too. So this is basically the same thing, just a slightly different approach. So we can clamp stuff down that way. So that is the beauty of the fixture table. I mean, we could use this to clamp a piece here if we were welding this in a corner. There's all sorts we can do with this table. So, you know, it's more than just a metal table to weld on. It's a fixture table. It allows us to jig things up. We could clamp down a header flange if we were building a manifold, etc. I think you guys get the idea. So I am super excited to use this, man. I wanted one of these for so long, and I feel like it's one of those things where I can think of all these uses now, but once I start using it, I'm going to come up with way more uses and not understand how I would without it, just like the old belt grinder. I just love tools, fab tools in specific. So yeah, instead of just jibber-jabbering on about it, let's use it. I've been waiting patiently to get this thing in and start using it, so let's knock out a little project on it. So while I was waiting for it to come in, I went ahead and started the wiring process on the K-Swap Saphiro to buy myself some time, so we'd have it in and set up before we did the last few fab projects on this thing. To finish the wiring, we do need to do a few things, and one of those things is mount the intake air temp sensor in the intercooler here. So what better of a first project to do on the new bench? So we'll get this thing pulled out. It's always rewarding when you build something and you design it with being easy to remove in mind, and it is. Alright, so we're going to need a mark controller hole. Obviously, we should have done this before we welded the in-tank on, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to put that sensor, so I've committed to putting it in the in-tank here. It's the easiest spot. So, yeah, let's get to it. All right, we got that done. Let's go reinstall it. All Nice spot for it. All right, sweet. That was a simple little project, but it needed to get done so we can wire up our sensor. I rearranged things a little bit in here. I just put the messed up corner in the back. I've still got to address that. I forgot and tacked it on the inside, but I didn't weld these. So cut that tack, boom, boom, weld them out. I also switched the welder to this side because I use the TIG torch in my right hand. So I might as well have the lead coming from the right side instead of coming across and then up and over. So just some little stuff, and it keeps everything kind of tucked out of the way. All in all, it fits really good in this space. Last little note, remember how I talked about MIG welding destroying helmets? This was a good clean wins before we started this. Really nice to have a MIG only helmet. So anyway, it's been a lot of jibber jabber and a lot of work, but we got it done. I am so excited to use this and dive back into fab projects. Still got a few more things to do, but I want to wrap up the wiring first before we move back to the fab stuff. So we'll be diving back into that and all the other work we got to do, but for now, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye.